Could a concerted effort bring about an end to the 30-minute rest break requirement? Plus, the news might just have you worried about $5 a gallon diesel again, but don't fret just yet. And cool cars, cool trucks, and flying taxis. A brand new Trucking with OOIDA starts now. Welcome to the show. I'm Scott Thompson.
And I'm Ashley Blackford.
Ashley's having some vocal issues
not
today.
Not at my best, clearly.
Yeah, the Midwestern allergy season is not doing you any favors.
No, and you know what? I didn't even know what allergies felt like until I moved to the Midwest, grew up on the East Coast, never experienced them until I came here, and then this is what happens. I lose my voice probably like 2 or 3 times a year, which in this profession is rough.
Not ideal.
It's not ideal. I feel great.
Yeah.
I sound like I'm...
We were joking. We should just do an ASMR.
Yeah,
we should do an
just
ASMR.
whisper the whole time.
Yeah, we won't do that.
No.
Well, you might.
I might.
I will try not to whisper as much as possible. It's finally Friday, Ashley.
Yes. Finally.
I think I went all week thinking it was Friday, but it finally is.
Finally is.
We were talking with Tennille earlier. It's like a collective thing. Like if I feel like
everybody
the day is not the right day that it should be, everybody else feels that way too.
Yeah, it's weird.
Makes me think we are part of maybe a computer simulation.
Maybe birds aren't real.
Birds aren't real, yeah. Yeah, it's all coming together. These conspiracies and more on this edition of Trucking with OOIDA. No, we will not get into those conspiracy theories. We are going to talk about a few things today, though, and a little bit here. I have been fascinated this week and last week looking at fuel prices and the future of what those might look like with everything that's going on in the Middle East. Tom Kloza has been covering the energy markets for 50 years. Quite literally 50 years. So he kind of talked me off a ledge a little bit, or is going to maybe hopefully talk me off a ledge here a little bit later on in the show as well. You've got a great story about the Shell Starship as well.
Yeah.
A really cool deal there with the Indy 500 that we're going to get to as well. But let's start with some news here. It has been a little bit slow, I think. For many, in many respects, and I think that's partly due to the summer season kind of being upon us here. But we do have some news here about an exemption renewal from FMCSA related to oversized loads and the rest break, right, Ashley?
Yeah, those who haul oversized loads are essentially getting a break from a break. FMCSA made an exemption announcement this week, and I will let Scott tell you what that is.
Yeah, this is interesting, right? Because it comes from the Specialized Carriers and Rigging Association. They've had an exemption before from the 30-minute rest break requirement. And essentially their argument here is that it's difficult for these oversized, overweight loads and the folks carrying them to find a place to park when that requirement comes up. Which, hey, that makes sense. I totally understand that. And they point out the safety concerns of doing that, of having to pull over sometimes on the side of a road or an exit ramp or entrance ramp, which I look at this and I think, yeah, I understand. It does.
It makes
sense. Parking is hard to find. Breaking news, that's an issue for everybody here. The thing that I look at it, when I look at this situation, I look at it as if they can grant this exemption, they being FMCSA, and renew it because they say it doesn't affect safety in a negative way, why not extend that to everyone, right? Put some trust in the professionals that are out there, doing the job every day, who, as we know, again, everybody across the board has trouble finding truck parking because we are in a truck parking crisis and there's not enough truck parking out there. So I think there's a real opportunity to make a point here because FMCSA did grant this exemption for renewal for, I think, 6 months. We'll see if it goes beyond that. But there's a comment period that comes along with it. And I think if enough people hopefully were to make the case that if you're doing it for these folks, do it for everybody. If you don't think it's going to negatively affect safety. And in fact, it might actually improve safety because we might have fewer trucks parking on the side of the road and in places where it is not convenient and quite frankly, not safe. So this is one I think you should comment if you can and if you are so inclined. Mark Schirmer of Landline Magazine did a story on this. It's on landline.media, and it's got a link there to do that as well. So I would encourage folks to do that. Again, I think there's a point to be made that maybe FMCSA will see it, and maybe it'll change some minds and some policy out there.
Yeah. Also, a recent study was done that shows a drop in mobile app usage while driving, which is good news. They excluded apps like music and navigation.
Sure.
But yeah, Scott, you've got the deets on that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess it went down. I guess you said you're a glass half full kind of person, Ashley. I think
I am.
64%, though, of people did admit to using mobile apps while driving. Down, about 9 points, I guess. From,
and I mean, they surveyed 1,700 drivers.
That's a lot of people.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it is. If you talk to people who do surveys, if you talk to Andrew King or Charles Sperry up at the foundation,
lot of people.
That's a good sample size. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
You're
I'm
not convinced.
I'm just thinking out of the whole country, 1,700.
The thing that gets me, and maybe I'm a glass half full or half empty kind of guy, I guess. It did go down, but some of the apps that people are using still. I mean, the camera app.
Well, why?
I think we know why. It's probably social media. They're probably
videoing
or something like that. Some of the other apps on there too, Amazon, I think, was on there. Are people doing shopping while they're driving?
McDonald's, though, here's my question about McDonald's. I mean, you have kids.
Does it count
Does it count if you've put your order in, you're en route to the drive-thru, you need your little number, your 4-digit number?
I don't know.
Does that count?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if they're actually counting it, the entirety of the time that they're there. But yeah, Instagram, Gmail, Apple Mail. These are the things that Chat GPT, people are using while they're driving. I see it all the time now. I do an informal survey, not a formal survey like this one was, but just when I'm driving, I'll take a look over to the person passing me or swerving on the road
and see. Yeah, they're on their phone.
9 times out of 10, they're on their phone. What are we doing, people?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, you see it way too much.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we got all this great technology that can do such great things. Maybe this is my old man on a hill kind of thing or whatever, shaking the fist of the wind. But can't they come up with some technology that would ban these apps or ban smartphone use only in the driver's seat? I don't know. Again, I'm not, I'm no expert. I don't know how that would work. But it would be maybe a good idea. Again, because I think this problem is only going to get worse until the autonomous vehicles take over the world, and we'll all be staring at our phones. But yeah, it's concerning for sure.
Yeah. Well, speaking of people taking risks on the road, this was a neat video. Kansas Highway Patrol recently posted it. It was actually a video from a trucking company, which I thought was really interesting. And I think maybe more trucking companies should do this if they have videos of four-wheelers doing
stupid things,
to put it
dangerous
bluntly.
things. Yeah.
This video, semi's driving down the road, and a vehicle comes up on the shoulder to their right.
Passed him on the shoulder.
Yeah, clipping right along.
Going 20 miles per hour faster than that semi
Probably
was.
Should have been. Yeah.
Yeah, and that trucking company, Doug Bradley Trucking, shared it with the Kansas Highway Patrol, and they shared it on social media. The thing that I know stood out to you, and we were talking about it earlier, but we point this out all the time, but when there's a crash, the passenger car is almost always, I shouldn't say almost always, but majority of the time, 80% at fault for those things.
Yeah.
So I don't think a lot of people realize that when they think about the big, bad, scary trucks that are out there. It's usually passenger vehicles, people doing Snapchat while they're passing a semi on the shoulder. Yeah, for sure. Ashley, real quick, before we go to break here, would you take a flying taxi?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Well, guess what? I think you might have that option. I've been waiting for flying cars and flying taxis since I watched the Jetsons when I was a kid. Yeah, I think that's the one that everybody goes back to.
Yeah.
Apparently we've been talking about it for a long time now, but the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, recently announced that they're working in partnership with a number of other countries to kind of fast track this technology. I guess there's a subsidiary of Boeing that is kind of involved in this too. They're trying to quite literally get flying taxis off the ground.
Is this the best usage of our time?
I mean, if if you're, that's my question too. Is like, who's the first person to take the flying taxi? I mean, we've seen them in like the demos or whatever. I think there was one in Paris like a couple years ago, and I think they were trying to roll them out for last summer's Olympics in Paris.
Didn't
happen. I think they're thinking like 2030 or something around that now. Ashley will not be in line for that.
Nope.
I would maybe I'd be like the millionth person taking it or something. I'm not quite sure. Yeah. Flying taxis aside, that's in the future. Not in the future, or I guess in our near future, really, is Tom Kloza, energy analyst, to talk about fuel prices, diesel prices, what the heck is going on in the Middle East, and how is it going to affect us, and what can we do? That's up after the break right here on Trucking with OOIDA, so please do stick around. And we're back, and we have been taking a close look and keeping a watchful eye on the situation with regard to fuel prices in recent days, something we've talked about here on the show quite a bit as we kind of wonder what the landscape is going to be and what it's going to look like here in the coming weeks and months. And with that in mind, we reached out to Tom Kloza, who joins us on the line now. He's an energy analyst. He's been doing it for a while. Tom, how you doing?
Not too bad. This is a much more dynamic summer than last summer, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not sure dynamic in this case is a good thing necessarily. And you've been covering kind of this stuff for a while, and we could talk about kind of historical comparisons here as we get the conversation going. I was looking at your Twitter or X feed, I guess as they call it now, and the one thing I like on there, you said you've been covering energy markets since Jimmy Hoffa went missing. Not since the failed search for Jimmy Hoffa, which was about 30 years ago. We're talking about when he went missing, right?
Well, and he went missing. I remember the Johnny Carson line about 5 years later said they had a new lead. They found his car keys in a can of Bumblebee tuna. So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Do you remember? Do you remember when that was all going down? Was that around the time you started?
It was July of 1975 was when he disappeared. Right around July 24th. So, that's when I had graduated college and started work for a company called Oil Buyers Guide back then. So, it's going to be 50 years for me in a few more weeks.
Well, 75 was an interesting time, too, with regard to the fuel markets and everything going on, too, right?
Yeah, we didn't have a futures market, and we didn't have financial traders who were trading oil and diesel and gasoline. Now we do, and there's been some pretty significant changes there. But, if you can't turn on a financial news show right now without them talking about the price of crude oil, a little bit less on the diesel and the gasoline side, but I think we need to pay attention to that going forward.
Yeah, why is that, do you think? Is it because we're kind of following the money? Is that maybe why that is? I'm curious.
Yeah, you don't normally get a lot of speculation or investment flows into diesel for one reason or another. The traders like to bet on higher gas prices in the season and higher crude oil prices. But right now, diesel is concerning because if you look around the globe, we're probably at the lowest inventory levels since 2005. It's a little bit misleading, because higher interest rates around the globe probably dampen the enthusiasm for keeping oil. But I think we're pushing the envelope of what you call just-in-time inventory, where, we've been able to reduce it, and you want to carry as little inventory as possible. But we may kind of flirt with some dangerous levels here down the road.
Yeah, and let's kind of talk about that here because, as I mentioned just a few moments ago, I keep an eye on the diesel level price pretty much every day just to kind of see where it is and what it's doing. In recent days, it has been going up, and I think that's not surprising considering what's going on in the Middle East. I mean, that's kind of an evergreen statement, I suppose, in some ways, but this situation between Iran and Israel is a different beast, it seems like, and obviously has the potential for being something much bigger and much worse. But when you see what's happening there, what are your first thoughts?
Well, my first thoughts are that I always worry when sentiments are combined and when there's a consensus view that is clearly one way or another. And right now, the consensus view, despite what's happening in the Middle East, is that crude oil is going to be much cheaper in the fourth quarter of this year and substantially cheaper in 2026. The problem for diesel is that it is tight, and it is the product that is getting the greatest sort of following right now. It's selling for almost $30 over crude. And just to put that in perspective, if you looked at the 70s and 80s and 90s, diesel always sold for maybe $5 or at most $10 over crude. So it's getting rewarded. It's going to be interesting because I think I could make a strong case for crude oil prices to back down to $60 or less, once this nonsense in Iran is completed. And that doesn't necessarily mean you'll see big drops in gasoline and diesel, and particularly diesel because of the low inventory. So, you can view the relationships right now, and the relationship between diesel and crude is the one that it's probably easy to predict based on. And I think it's going to continue to trade for 25 or even as much as $50 over the price of crude. So you may get some headlines later in the year about crude oil prices lowest since 2021 or whatever, and yet you're going to have stiff values across the country for people that use diesel.
Yeah, we were kind of exchanging emails earlier this week, and you had mentioned something to that effect, right? That you feel like the effect on diesel here, again, depending on what happens in the Middle East and elsewhere, is going to be more pronounced than we would see with gas. Are we looking at a situation where gas prices are going to maybe, stay level, go down while diesel prices go up? What does that relationship or difference look like?
Well, one of the most popular trades out there right now in the futures market is to be long diesel futures and short gasoline. A few months ago, gasoline fetched a small premium versus the price of diesel. Right now, if you look out into December diesel is fetching the price about 45 cents above the price of gasoline. And it's amazing. Sometimes these trading plays can influence the market. There's so much sentiment that suggests that diesel's going to be tight this year and prices are going to be prone to spikes, that you get a lot of people getting ahead of the trade and basically speculating on profitability if they hold diesel futures. So we're seeing that right now. We'll probably see it in spades for the second half of the year. And then it's going to be all about the winter. The one thing that we haven't had a really cold winter in some time. And there's so much less storage and so much less diesel in storage than there used to be, that could really strain the logistics. Just in time was an inventory practice that was pioneered by Michael Dell, but it could become just intolerable if you don't have enough oil when you get squeeze time. I'm not that concerned about the Persian Gulf area right now. Yeah. I think there's a $10 per barrel or about 25 cents a gallon premium on crude oil and products. And that's tied to the possibility that a wider war may come about. The really sort of apocalyptic numbers where people are talking $90 and $100, that would be based on mines in the Strait of Hormuz or some sort of shutdown in the Strait of Hormuz or kind of a scorched earth policy by Iran. I don't think, it's never happened, and I don't think it's likely to happen this year. If it does, the sky is the limit. But I think most of the bets now are that it's going to be calming down. The other thing I noticed is Goldman Sachs today, they said that they thought crude oil had a $10 per barrel geopolitical premium, and they thought that its real value would be close to $60. And they put a percentage of probability about a wider war pretty high, like 67% or so. But they also modeled a nuclear agreement with Iran, which would be very bearish, and they modeled that at about 50% this year.
Yeah, and that I think that's initially what made me think of you when I saw the situation going on there, because as you kind of point out, and I don't think this is going to surprise anybody, but when you look at the headlines out there, you look at kind of the fears that are out there too about what could happen. People's minds tend to go to worst case scenarios, I think. And when you're talking,
they do, and
yeah,
they do. And what they need to realize is, if you look at percentages, Iran has essentially been exporting about 1.6 million barrels a day of crude oil. Most all of it going to China, by the way. Now, if you look at that, you go, well, what's world demand? And world demand is probably going to be 104 or 105 million barrels a day in the next 2 months. So that's really a tiny percentage. And the other thing to keep in mind is that OPEC's spare capacity, how much additional crude they have in their pocket, is probably in the realm of about 5 million barrels a day. If you combine that with all the new projects, Gulf of Mexico, Guyana, Brazil, Canada, you got a lot of oil coming on the market. And that's why people are so bearish about the fourth quarter of this year in 2026. I don't think I've seen such a consensus bearish view since the Great Depression, or the Great Recession, I should say.
Yeah. And why is that, do you think?
I think because if you look at the balances, you can come up with a typical scenario is that we'll have about 2 million barrels a day more oil than demand for it later this year. And then in March of next year, that overage approaches 4 million barrels a day. You know, things can happen. I mean, OPEC can cut again, and there could be some disruptions in different places. You know, oil tends to be in dangerous locations around the world, but the pendulum is swinging toward oversupply if you get peace in the Persian Gulf.
Yeah, that two-word or two-letter word there is doing a lot of heavy lifting, because we don't know what's gonna happen. If I could push you into pessimist territory, let's say things do get hairier there. Let's say the Strait of Hormuz, we see disruptions there. What does a worst case scenario look like? And again, kind of keeping in mind diesel prices, because the people listening here, obviously, that would be a big concern for them. What does that look like to you?
Yeah, I think worst case scenario is $90 to $100 per barrel oil. Don't think it's very, very likely. But, it's reminiscent of what happened with the Ukraine war in 2022, when we saw diesel prices on the wholesale basis get above $4 and on a retail basis get above $5. Don't think we're looking at that here. I think that might be enough to really impact what's kind of a fragile, developed country economic outlook. So I think worst case scenario is we're going to see some, average diesel prices around $4, perhaps, tending to be at highs with a winner if we get a winner. But the one thing to keep in mind is that, given the prices right now, and looking at refiners across the country and throughout the world, boy, if you can make a lot of diesel, you're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
This is a product that sold for $5 to $10 over crude for a long, long time, and now it's trading for like $25 to $35 a barrel over. It is, people think that refiners get excited about making gasoline. No, gasoline is the unwanted hydrocarbon. They get excited about making diesel and making jet fuel too. That's pretty profitable, and we're talking about all-time high demand for that.
Yeah, you mentioned the Russia invasion of Ukraine, and that's obviously, right, I think, the most recent kind of, again, not an apples and apples comparison, but apples and oranges. And we did see, quite an impact on the fuel market, on diesel prices, with regard to that, what happened there about 3 years ago. There is a parallel here, I hear you saying, but not a direct parallel. Why is that? What's the difference?
Well, there was much more panic after the Ukraine war. We thought we were going to lose 7 million barrels a day of Russian crude oil production, and we thought we were going to lose all of the Russian refined products. And a lot of the molecules for diesel and jet fuel that Russia produces were sold in Europe. So after the invasion, we saw a rise in crude oil to about $120. In retrospect, and that's about 3 years ago this week. In retrospect, that was a tremendous overreaction, and these markets do tend to overreact. The one thing I could tell you, this is a little bit inside baseball, though, is that the markets don't overreact quite as much as they did, let's say, coming out of COVID or 2022. You think about trading in oil, and you think about J.R. Ewing or some of the great futures traders.
Yeah.
But most of the action every day is actually being done by the quants. The mathematicians that know they may have a time horizon of just a few minutes or a few hours, and they know that every time diesel prices might get to $2.50, they tend to go up to $2.60. So they play these short-term trends. But the overreaction of 2022, which is clearly now an overreaction, doesn't look like it'll get repeated. One thing I do want to say, though, about the Persian Gulf and some of the action in the Middle East, there was a direct impact on diesel in some cases. Some of the countries there, Egypt comes to mind, they require natural gas to fire up their utilities. And some of the damage to natural gas fields, whether from Israel or to Iran, has sent them into the market. And instead of burning natural gas, they might turn to burning diesel. To the extent that happens, not just there, but around the world, that can really push the price up.
Yeah. If you can hang out for just a moment, Tom, we do have to take a quick break. But when we come back, I would like to talk to you about the cushion here in the U.S. Should things go badly? You mentioned inside baseball. I do want to ask you about baseball, too, because I know you're a baseball fan. But we'll take a quick break here. When we come back, more of Tom Kloza. So stick around. Trucking with OOIDA continues right after this. And welcome back to Trucking with OOIDA. Scott Thompson here, joined on the phone by Tom Kloza, the energy analyst who's been doing it for a while. And I was giving you grief, Tom, here earlier, a noted Yankees fan. How you feeling these days?
I'm feeling like we're in kind of a dry spell, but, better to take place in June than in September or October.
It's a long season. Yet. Long season. Yeah.
No panic yet, and a lot of talent on the team.
Yeah, well, as long as you got Aaron Judge on the team, I think you're always going to have something to root for, at least, even if your team isn't good.
Yeah, I think he's probably a pretty decent player. He'll stick around for a while.
Yeah, he might have a future in this game. We'll see for sure. You mentioned the word panic there. We were also talking earlier. Again, you've got kind of a steady hand, I think, with all this, and you're seeing all of the pieces move around, and you've got that experience, obviously, doing this for 50 years or so. But we were also saying never underestimate people's capacity to panic with these things. Just talking about diesel prices again as they sort of inch up here, that is a factor, right? When we look at all of this, that people could start making, I guess, rash decisions that could affect the markets. That's a possibility, I would assume.
Yeah, and what you have to watch is the relationship between different products. In 2022 and to a certain extent in 2023, you had diesel being competitive with natural gas in parts of the world. The price of natural gas in Europe and the price of natural gas in Asia is, 3 or 4 times the price in North America. We're kind of a privileged continent as far as that goes. And when they have natural gas disruptions, again, what's the alternative if you have no natural gas available? You're going to burn diesel or something like that. So that was in the backdrop a couple of years ago. Doesn't appear to be likely this year, but you just never know. And then the other thing, and I'm about to write something about this, hopefully not to frighten people too much, but we've got sort of peak hurricane season coming July, August, and September.
Yeah.
And I'll put it in this perspective. When Katrina came, and we're looking at the 20-year anniversary of that, we exported very little diesel, maybe 100,000, 150,000 barrels a day. Nowadays, every week, we're exporting about 1.4 or 1.5 million barrels a day, 10 times more, mostly to Latin America, South America, you name it. That is another fly in the ointment that you have to worry about in the summer. Most hurricanes destroy demand, and they never destroy any refining capacity. But we've also added refining capacity. Back during Katrina, it was about 9 million barrels a day along the Gulf Coast. Now it's over 10 million barrels a day, which is helpful unless you get a hurricane that knocks some of it out. So that's the other thing on the horizon that you have to pay attention to.
Looking at the situation closer to home here in the U.S., I think back to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We had the Biden administration tapping into the U.S. Strategic Oil Reserve kind of in response to what was going on there. What is that situation, again, looking at if things do get, kind of go sideways here? What does the reserve look like right now? Is that an option to tap back into that? How does that all kind of play into what we're talking about?
Well, it's kind of mixed. I would always joke about the SPR and say that there's plenty of oil in it, and we don't really need to worry about filling it back to 500 or 600 million barrels unless we went to war with Canada. And now we're not at war with them, but It does seem to be a hell of a conflict between this administration and Canada. Yeah. We import about 4 million barrels a day from them. By the way, Canadian crude is the biggest winner in this entire Middle East flare-up because a lot of heavy crude has been taken off the market. Canadian crude was selling for discounts of anywhere between $15 and $40 to WTI. Now it's about $8 under WTI. So I guess that's a filibustering way of saying that. Don't be surprised to see some of the biggest increases for diesel or gasoline in the interior states, in the mid-continent, where they're very dependent on Canadian crude. I personally don't believe we need to fill or worry about filling the SPR. The president has indicated that he'd like to have funding for it. But I think he's got his hands full right now getting this big, beautiful bill passed. Yeah. And it would take a lot of money, to add tens of millions of barrels to the SPR. And I don't even know if it's capable of accepting the barrels because, the maintenance can be very, very expensive.
So getting down to even, I guess, more of a micro level, we've got folks listening that diesel is their biggest expense, day in and day out. And, they keep an eye on these things. And obviously, every cent that it goes up, that hits them in the pocketbook. So I'm asking, it can be a kind of a helpless feeling for them. I guess I'm asking you on an individual level, and I think I know the answer, and I could be very wrong here, but, is there anything they can be doing? I guess, is there anything they can be doing as they look at all of these different scenarios kind of swirling about? Anything they can do to kind of mitigate the damage, or is it just kind of hey, we're going with the flow here?
Yeah, I think patience is warranted for a lot of folks. I would not be chasing prices higher right now, even though I'm fairly bullish on diesel prices going forward. The problem is I can see a scenario where 3 months from now, the price of crude oil is $15 per barrel lower and the price of diesel is about the same. So you need to pay that in mind. And you need to remember that oil markets, whether it's the futures markets or the spot markets, they always overreact to the upside and they overreact to the downside. I'm not sure if I would measure it right now as an overreaction or something that's justified. But, the market runs out. There's a great quote a French philosopher said. He said, given the choice, the crowd will always choose Barabbas, which is to say, when you have crowd behavior, you always make the wrong choice. Mm-hmm. So be aware of that and don't lose your head when you see prices moving up. There's plenty of motivation to make a lot of diesel and a lot of jet fuel. Gasoline, not so much. But you run into demand for gasoline is much lumpier, and you see demand in December and January. That's 1 million barrels a day lower than where it is now.
Tom, I think that is a great place to wrap things up with you. Always enjoy talking with you. Always enjoy getting your perspective on these things because as we, kind of talked about there, I do see some panic out there. But again, you're a steady hand at the wheel, and we appreciate your perspective. And we'll talk to you again. Talk to you again soon.
Hey, one other thing, Scott.
Yeah.
I just want to emphasize one other thing that's changed. In 2008 and during the Arab Spring years of 2011 to 2013, tremendous flows of financial money went into energy futures on the notion that, you buy oil, you're going to be rewarded as prices go higher. That has really changed. Oil futures have lost their mojo. And you think about it, there's probably $5 trillion now in crypto and something like about $15 or $17 trillion in the Mag 7 stocks. That money might have been chasing oil prices higher years ago. Now it's not.
Interesting. That money's going elsewhere.
Yeah. I wish it would come to me, but
well,
I don't understand crypto. I really don't.
We'll put in a word or two.
I do understand it's a hot investment these days.
Yeah.
And hot money likes it.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, again, that perspective we appreciate. We appreciate you, Tom, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you so much. Our thanks again there to Tom Kloza for, again, I think talking me off a ledge a little bit. We were talking earlier today, Ashley. I guess it does speak to me being a glass half empty kind of guy because I think Tom is glass half full on this. You're a glass half full kind of person as well. So sometimes, I guess when it's warranted, yeah, for sure. It's also interesting too when we talk about fuel and the dependence on it right now. It always strikes me too when we hear these conversations about EV mandates, and that of course was in the news with California, and then President Trump kind of striking those down with those resolutions, and then now California kind of going back to it. I understand both sides of the issue, quite frankly, and why some states and some, governments might want to push the envelope there and try to force a new way to do things. But also, the free market, I think, reigns supreme for the most part and usually has throughout history, which is what strikes me about a piece that you recently worked on with regard to the Shell Starship. They're doing some really cool things with natural gas-powered Class 8 trucks and have been doing that for a number of years, trying to, again, kind of push this issue forward. And you recently spoke with somebody about another cool thing that they got to do.
Yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about when we say the Shell Starship, I definitely recommend Googling it.
Yeah, it's not a flying taxi.
But it almost looks like it could be.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it definitely has a very futuristic look to it. And actually, in the interview, which you'll hear, they did work with I think Boeing to create it, which I thought was really cool. Or somebody had asked that. I think there was something like that. But yeah, no, they're partnering with the IndyCar Series. And I noticed earlier you called it the Indy 500.
Right.
Which is a race, but it's only one race in the series, which is interesting because I think...
We'll get that in our correction segment later.
No, my knowledge on IndyCar racing was pretty small before I did this story.
It's just a little bit bigger now?
So yeah, I learned a little bit more. Have you ever watched it?
I have watched it, actually. I've watched it a few times. I've never been. My father. Long story short, my father is a professional drummer and worked for Jim Nabors Gomer Pyle for a number of years. And Jim Nabors was actually like the let's start your engines kind of guy, and did some stuff. So my father has been to more than a few, and I've never been. But he says the experience is just like thunder moving through your body, which it sounds really cool. I'd love to get out there sometime for sure.
I could definitely see that for sure, just from watching the videos. Yeah. So, but the Starship involved in the Indy races this year. I recently spoke with someone at Shell about this unique partnership, and we're going to listen to that now.
Drivers, start your engine!
The IndyCar Series is in full swing now, and along with the cool cars is a cool truck that's playing an important role.
It kind of takes you back to being a kid because it's it looks like a spaceship, right? It's this really cool truck. It's something that you'd be really excited to see.
The Shell Starship, which looks more like a spaceship, is making sure these open-wheel race cars are in working order before they start their engines.
Recently, we're able to actually, get this truck that we did some demonstrations runs with to join the fleet at IndyCar and haul the Pennzoil inspection trailer for the remainder of the IndyCar Series, starting with the Indy 500.
Scott Burian is the Global Integrated Communications Manager for Shell. He says the natural gas-powered Class 8 truck is hauling the Pennzoil Tech Inspection Trailer, which is a step toward the Indy Series sustainability goals.
So we've already helped them achieve some by going to renewable racing fuel supplied by Shell since 2023. So it's building on that relationship by providing the Starship 3.0 to haul the Pennzoil Tech Inspection Trailer. And so this truck, it has a natural gas engine, can run on renewable natural gas. And so compared to the standard truck, this helps reduce our emissions. There's also a lot of fuel efficiency improvements built into the truck that in general, through a comparison, help them meet some of their sustainability goals. So we were able to join up with them on qualifying weekend in Indianapolis. And we were able to help do this announcement as part of their sustainability update, the president from IndyCar. And so we had the Shell Starship 3.0 behind that, which was a very nice backdrop for this announcement, with IndyCar, Shell, and then NTT Data also had an announcement of their own for IndyCar sustainability.
The trailer plays a vital role in making sure these cars that are going top-notch speed are in top-notch shape.
Yeah, so that's an area that gets set up in the garage, at the different racetracks, and that's where they have the mechanical experts basically come in and do exactly what the name says. They expect all the cars that are coming through before the race. So there are certain requirements that they need to meet to be able to qualify for racing, and then if they don't qualify, they have to go through various measures, penalties, etc. So it's to keep everybody to the standard, for racing that IndyCar has set.
The Shell Starship has a unique design that Burian says gets a lot of attention and gets people asking a lot of questions.
We had a question at Indianapolis if we've worked with, the airline companies, in their models, because if you look at the front of it, it really is just really the smooth curve that goes down. And so some of the inspiration for sure came from the airline industry for the aerodynamics. So it's got this really smooth front of it, with the windshield coming in. So it has a very distinct look. The paint scheme that we were able to do for this that matched the Pennzoil Tech Inspection Trailer. So it's red, and then it has the Shell pectin, which is kind of that seashell symbol that everybody is very familiar with kind of a radiation from that goes from yellow to orange to red, with IndyCar on the side of it. And then there's no, the traditional mirrors are gone. And so there are camera systems. And so this helps improve the aerodynamics. There's also some safety components that helps with as well. So though it's gone, so that part's different, but it's really low to the ground. You'll notice that, we're trying to reduce that drag. And the tire system's a little bit different. It's low rolling resistance tires, and so it's definitely something that is unique and distinct. But I think it came out really good together with the trailer, and something that you'll see more and more OEMs going to components like aerodynamics and sort of things. Not to say they're going to take that same design, but something that you'll probably see a little bit more going forward with newer trucks.
The Shell Starship hauling the Indy Series inspection trailer is a first for the company.
So we've had a long-standing collaboration with Penske, with IndyCar, with other motorsports. So we've certainly done a lot of things over the years through the different motorsport sponsorships, but nothing quite like this, because the Shell Starship 3.0 is really unique for us as well, because we're not a truck manufacturer. And in the world of trucks, some of the things that we're providing as fuel, lubricants. Now there's more data metrics and fuel cards and everything else that we have through Fleet Solutions, but we're certainly not a truck OEM by any means, so it is definitely unique.
The partnership started at the Indy 500 in May and will continue through the season.
So from Indianapolis 500 through the end of the circuit, which I believe finishes in Nashville in August. So all those races kind of in between in that circuit, and then we'll see what happens from there. But it's very much part of their fleet, part of their operations for what they're doing. Going from track to track, and it's quite an important piece of equipment that is hauling there. So really great that we're able to make this work and to actually take a concept truck to do something as important as this and really prove it from track to track in between. And we're looking forward to seeing the results from this too.
Burian says he hasn't had the chance to experience an Indy race, but he's hoping to soon.
We've had a number of our members of our leadership team went to the Indy 500 because of how big of a race it is. I think arguably it's the biggest race in the world, for that event, especially within IndyCar, the biggest race of the year, outside of the championship, and maybe arguably with the championship there too, but what I can tell you is that it is remarkable there. Like, when you get out of the airport, and I get to the downtown area for qualifying weekend, on one of the hotels, there's this huge banner that said, "This is May" on the side of it. And I mean, there were hundreds, maybe of thousands of people at the track when we were there to watch the practice. And this is not even the qualifying race, like the practice for the qualifying weekend. Like, so the buzz there is just unbelievable. And, they just did a renovation to their museum there. Oh my gosh, it is incredible. They have this, it's like the starting line video, they call it. And they have this room with a screen and it curves to the ceiling. And man, like the concerts and things they've done there before the race, how many people are there? I think they said there was it 350,000, 400,000 people were there. And they compare that to like ballparks and how many people are in attendance there. Like, it is just absolutely crazy. So I definitely need to go because they've pumped me up now. I'm all in. So I mean, any racing fan, just I think fans in general, like something that's that you just don't see every day to experience. And man, those cars zoom around. Like even just listening to them, we were able to walk right alongside the track there. And they just the noise and how fast they're going, like it just makes you appreciate it so much more in person. Seeing on TV is great, but does not do it justice for how how intense it really is live.
The partnership between Shell and the Indy Series is one that is beneficial for both parties.
I got great feedback from this past week. We were told that in Detroit when the truck was out that it just got mobbed with people asking tons of questions, and there's a sign that we're looking to put next to the truck, but they're like, oh, we really need to tell people about what's going on because there's a lot of questions, a lot of interest. So it's great. I mean, it's great for Shell, it's great for IndyCar, to drive innovation forward and to set that message that we're alongside with them, to help them meet sustainability goals. We're doing what we can now to, improve efficiencies with trucking within the industry, because that's the whole concept is the Starship is everything on is available now. So are all those, is that something that you should adopt 100% for your fleet? Doesn't make a sense for a lot of people, right? But there's just little things, that you can do here and there that make an improvement. And the biggest is the powertrain with that truck too. And, there's now a large bore engine Cummins has that's available. So natural gas is certainly something that you can look into. Going to help save on fuel costs when you can get renewable natural gas when you can. Is certainly reduces emissions compared to the standard diesel, and it's something that can be a drop-in solution. So there's stuff that you can do now. We're looking forward to continuing to driving sustainability together. And it really is cool, and definitely makes me feel really good about the project that there's so much interest at the track, and we're looking forward to the other upcoming ones, and we can see what else we can possibly do.
If you're curious to learn more about this natural gas-powered Class 8 truck, there are a few ways to do that online.
You can search Shell Starship in any search browser, Google, Chrome, or Explorer, any of the ones that you may use. It should pop right up on your search screen to read more about this. If you want to read more about specifically what we did with IndyCar, if you go to the IndyCar website, there's a press release there that you can read from them. And that has the latest paint scheme too. So you can kind of see what that looks like from the announcement. And thanks for having me, Ashley. I hope to come back again in the future with more Starship news. And, again, appreciate you helping us to spread the word about, what we did with IndyCar, because it truly was something unique and it's definitely special to us. And something that's good awareness for the community as well about all the different things you can do to improve efficiency.
The next Indy race is this weekend in Wisconsin.
Our thanks to Scott Burian from Shell. As I mentioned, the next IndyCar race is this weekend. And if you want more information on the Shell Starship, you can visit shell.com.
Yeah, and I was reminded, too, as we were talking earlier, that we do want to hear from folks who are listening. We do have a hotline. We do have an email address. So if you are an IndyCar person, if you've been...
if you've ever hauled an IndyCar, that would be really cool.
We'd
love to hear
that
from you.
Love to hear that story. If you want to take a flying taxi or have, whatever it is, whatever's on your mind, let us know. We've got a hotline, 1-800-324-6856. You can also email us at podcast@ooida.com. So please do reach out. We'd love to hear from you. We will get back with you, and we can talk about anything you want to talk about. We are going to talk about something that we want to talk about here in just a moment. Out of New York City, there's a guy making a boatload of cash, apparently, for, can we say snitching on people? I think that is safe to say.
I think that's a good way to describe that.
So we'll have that story right after this when Trucking with OOIDA continues.
And we're back. Scott, I don't think you're in the market for a new job, but if you are, maybe moving to New York City and doing what this guy does, who calls himself a streeter, might be a good way to go.
I thought I was going to be a part of your new ASMR channel. that was the plan.
That was the plan. I don't think you'd make as much as this guy's making.
All right, this is a plan B, I guess. Yeah, there's this guy in New York City. We've talked about this before, too, about the Air Compliant program, where essentially they're asking people to call in and report on trucks.
Idling.
And I guess cars as well. Or
buses.
I guess it's trucks and buses, that are idling.
Non-city buses.
Yeah, so you're essentially... snitching on these idling trucks or buses. So this guy, this made me just kind of say, whoa, what's going on? I'm in the wrong profession. He bikes around the city 9 hours a day, apparently. He is making over 6 figures a year just doing that, essentially finding trucks and buses that are idling and reporting them to the authorities there. The fines, as we've pointed out, I think can be up to like $600 for being caught with it. But yeah, this guy, and I think he's got to say, I guess his brother.
Yeah, I mean, he has a reason why he's doing this. He was also part of getting this legislation passed.
Oh,
back in 2017.
Okay.
But his brother, I believe, non-smoker, battled stage 4 lung cancer. And so
this is near and dear to his heart.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's understandable. It's one of those things I think we joke and be like, oh, gosh, that'd be, funny to do as a full-time job. But this guy is
he's got a purpose behind it.
Yeah. We're going to do it.
But again, that's an eye-opening figure. 6 figures a year, just kind of reporting on folks doing that.
Yeah, because they get, I think, 25% of the fines.
Yeah, and as we've talked about before, I think a good segment of the population doesn't understand why trucks might be idling in the summer or the winter, and there is a purpose there. But, that is a lot of money. Good for him, I guess, if he can make it there. But we will not be doing that.
No,
we will be back
jobs.
next week with another few episodes of Trucking with OOIDA. We appreciate you tuning in today. As always, I'm Scott Thompson.
I'm Ashley Blackford.
And we'll see you next time. Today's episode of Trucking with OOIDA was brought to you by a dedicated team of people that includes Jim Fetzer, Keegan White, Tennille Flick, and Kim Boren.
Got thoughts? We'd love to hear them. Call us at 1-800-324-6856 and leave us a message. Or you can send us an email to podcast@ooida.com and we might include it on the show.